All right.
We're here.
Hey, howdy, hey, everybody, and welcome. I'm not sure how many people will be joining us. We normally do these on a Tuesday night, but felt prompted to do this one today. It's been on our heart for quite a while, and we're just going to kind of minister and share the things that are on our heart. Hello, LaDonna. Hello to those of you joining us. Hey, Erica out west, and folks from all over. I guess sometimes people don't want me to call out their name.
I was going to say, I wonder if it shows up.
Well, it doesn't. One thing I noticed is that people are on that their names don't come up. Because we'll get like people say, did you see my name? It's like, no, your name didn't come up. So anyway, we're grateful that you're on. If you could, as always, and I know I ask this, I appreciate it. I'll mention it a couple times. If you feel comfortable just clicking share, so that people can find it, because it's in a million different feeds right now and trying to get it out. Hello, Jolene, my redheaded mother. I know that's right. She must have seen those old pictures of my redheaded mother. Really, really redheaded. Hey, Bronx, New York. Yeah, they're going to be from all over. We're going to have Africa, Europe, East, West Coast, U.S., and maybe it's your best friend, Connie. All right, so if you feel inclined to share something, I'm not sharing something about a vasectomy on my page, well, then that's up to you. But if you would also, tonight, it's for married folks, single people. You are more than welcome to be on here. We're gonna get, as my doctor told me, the nitty and the gritty. What is that? Do you see that thing? What is that little guy there? Sorry, it's like a little gnat. We're not gonna ruin the broadcast swinging at gnats. Anyway, thanks for sharing, everybody. Team Single taking notes. All right, so. We're talking about penises and testicles and sex and orgasms and ejaculation and sperm and stuff.
I guess it's okay if single people are on, but not children.
Definitely not children. And you know what you can handle. If you say, I can't handle hearing about all this stuff, we're talking about sex, and it's going to be real. So if you can handle that, I can assure you this is not the worst thing on the internet. If you're like, man, I'm looking for something nasty and lusty. Hello, Roberto. I'm good to see you, brother. I've known him for many, many years. Okay, so at your own risk. It's not really risk. If you want to see something dirty on the internet, this is not where you're going to find it. But just don't be shocked, because I'm going to say some stuff, and she's going to watch me say some stuff. It's just real stuff, and the reason we share it is a lot of people have questions. One more thing before we begin, as people are getting on live from around the world, thank you again for sharing. People pop this video out, we appreciate it. This Friday, if you are able to make it to Atlanta or live in Atlanta or anywhere in Atlanta, College Park, Georgia, this Friday, 7 p.m. Sharp. 7 p.m. sharp. There's no praise service, no songs, no welcome, no hors d'oeuvres. 7 o'clock sharp this Friday. So I'm trying to make it from the north side of Atlanta all the way to the south side. I probably won't be there till 7:10. Get in however you can get in. Married folks only. This one, they will not let you in the door if you're single. They will not let you in the door if you have children. There's going to be security and police and everything else. But a marriage encounter, our first one this year, will be held at World Changers. We are so grateful to God. Our spirits are dead. Parents came to us and said, hey, would you do something for couples? We're doing it. It's going fast. It's free, but you got to register. You can register at worldchangers.org, I think it is. You can register there. So this is not, okay, good night, everyone. I hear you. Yeah, if you're married, then you're not going to hear anything. If you're mature and you're like, yeah, I can handle this stuff, then you do it on your own, and it'll be fine. There's nothing. It's just body stuff. It's marriage stuff. Hey fam, how you doing, Anthony? Pastor Anthony. So, okay, here we go. Let's open with a word of prayer as folks join us here. We're so grateful. Lord, speak. Conda and I have already prayed. Father, you've heard our prayer. We believe we received the transformation, the ministry, that this will go out and be heard by hundreds, maybe even thousands of people, Lord, and that you'll customize it to minister to them, that they'll hear the voice behind the word. No weapon formed against this time shall prosper. Minister through us for your glory. And God, I think that what's said will be taken before you and prayed through in marriages, and you'll give divine direction and clarity. In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
Amen. Okay, so here we go. We're talking about vasectomy as it relates to great married sex. I know that's an odd topic. We get questions, and people write, and so this is questions that have been spooling for a while and stacking up and stacking up and stacking up. It's like, yeah, we'll get to that, and now we need to get to it. So we're going to answer some stuff. We're going to talk about our journey. We're going to share some stuff that we've heard from other people to pass along. Big night for Dylan. Oh yeah, no, unfortunately, sorry about the marriage encounter. It will not be online. I'm very sorry, and I don't know if it'll be taped. I hope it will be taped, but it may not. We're just coming in as guests, and I'm not sure if the content will be able to be sold or distributed. So anyway, God's grace, and people do what they got to do. Okay, so we get lots of questions about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say about we had done a previous thing. If you want to direct that.
Yes.
Okay,
so we talked about vasectomy. A long time ago, 2 months ago.
More on discussion about birth control in general.
And so this is not going to deal with that. We talked about should you do it, what's the biblical case for doing it, how do you choose birth control, what part should the man play versus the woman, who should carry the heavier responsibility, thinking through the cost of just being a mom on the female body, et cetera, et cetera. So we talked about all that. Any recap or anything you want to give on that?
No, just if people say, well, what about this, what about that? Or maybe even watching tonight, and then when you get a chance to go back and watch, I believe it's on the Great Married Life.
Yeah, if it's not on GreatMarriedLife.com, they'll be uploading it soon from our YouTube page over to GreatMarriedLife.com, and you can watch it. It kind of, the first video dealt with how we discussed, was I ready to no longer have children? We discussed the possibilities of if something happened to Connie and I married somebody else and they wanted children. We talked about freezing eggs, freezing sperm.
So if people hear tonight, when we kind of talk a little more practical or whatever, they may say, well, how do we even discuss it or bring it up? And that I thought would be good to go back if couples wanted to watch that.
Yeah, and a lot of couples say to us, I bring it up, wives say I bring it up, but my husband just won't listen. Watch that first video. I can't even relate to that. I can't even... this is just me. This is not a church. Hey, Jarvis, this is not a church. This is just me. This is not, there's no more CJAX. But this is not CJAX. This is not World Changers. This is just Connie and I in our home sharing with you our thoughts. So we're not speaking for any church, ministry, whatever. I do not understand or comprehend a guy who says, my wife says, hey, I need to shut down the factory because I don't want any more children. And the husband's like, well, too bad, I'm not doing anything. I can't spell that. I can't understand that. I don't understand women that say, I'm not pleased in the bed. I cannot understand that. I don't understand a woman that says, I want him to do this and this to me and he won't do it. I can't understand that. He doesn't take time for me. I can't understand that. He won't hold me after. I can't understand that. He doesn't know how to talk sweet to me. You're telling me stuff that I can't even, because to me, in God's design, or maybe not in God's design, I guess, but in a perfect world, you only get one wife, so you got to make the most of this. Now I understand there's divorce and remarriage and God's foreknowledge and goodness intersecting, and we can be on our second, third, fourth, or fifth marriage and finally feel like we got the goodness of God. But I don't understand any thought of not making this woman's life the greatest thing in the world.
What you do?
Well, that's my goal. So I never wanted to regret marrying me. I never wanted to feel like, why did I do this? It's supposed to be the greatest thing. She's supposed to be so glad that she took my phone call, so glad that she answered my proposal. This is what it's supposed to be. So those things about, I'm 45 and I don't want to have any more children. My husband's 42. And he says, well, I'm not going to do anything about it. And he says to her, if you want to go under the knife, go under the knife. But I'm not doing that. I'm a man. I got to spread my seed, or whatever that stuff is, which is, it's ignorance 10x. So I don't get it. So maybe you can hear my heart in the first part. I try to remove Connie's burdens. I try to lift Connie's burdens. I feel like I'm in debt to her for the children that she's given me, and I know I gave them to her first, and she incubated them, whatever. But I feel like I'm in a debt of honor to her. I think we're in a debt of honor to women in general. I mean, I think that's what Paul tries to explain. So we're getting why do people text in the middle of these things? But I have a debt of honor to Connie for what her body's gone through, what she does for the house, what she does for the kids. I think we have it backwards. I think that we've preached religion so long that the man is the earth and the woman orbits him. And in fact, I think in the house, the woman is the earth, or woman is the sun, and the man and the children and the family orbit her. That's just the way I believe it. So I always wanted to make her feel rewarded and rich. I always want to make her feel like I am the goodness of God manifested in physical form. I made her a deal when we got married that she would hear women complain all the time about what they were missing in marriage, that they didn't feel equal, they didn't, weren't respected, they weren't getting the good loving, their husband wasn't taking time, they didn't feel like they could climax as much as they wanted to, or didn't help around the house, or didn't help with the kids, or didn't listen to them, or didn't make them feel valued, didn't encourage them, I told her, I said, you'll hear all these women complain. I said, if you say yes to me, you'll hear all your friends complain, and you'll just sip your little coffee like this, and they'll come to you and say, well, Connie, what's on your list of complaints? And she'll say, what do you say?
I can't relate.
I can't relate. I have no idea what you're talking about, and it happens. We were just somewhere this past week, I don't know if it was church or whatever, and some guy was saying something, and Connie's like, I have no idea what that's about, because you have never made me feel this way. I guess it was on the internet, or somebody had something to say about church. So I don't want to make her feel that way. I want to make her feel like God's daughter, and so to me, asking her, I saw what it was like when the two aliens came out of her belly, like that movie. I saw what she went through. I saw what her body. I know what's happened to all her size 6.5 shoes that are now irrelevant. I know she was, 5'2", and now she's 5'3" because of the way bones and stuff have changed. I have no idea what's happened. I've seen what's happened to her skin. I've seen what's happened to her body. I've seen this is a lot, and to say, well, I'm going to be ejaculating, and you're going to have to figure out, we have stepped into a fly thing here. This is weird. I'm going to be ejaculating, and you're just going to have to pray that you don't get pregnant. I don't understand how somebody can put that burden on a woman, but that's me. So that's in the first video. Okay, let's jump into this, and then I have questions. If you have questions, you'll be able to get your questions answered. Hopefully, we'll see how many we get to. Connie will try to pay attention to that. You've got a couple of feeds going. You know what I didn't do here? I need to do it right quick here. And forgive us, this is not a broadcast. We're just trying to, I'm going to come right here, and I'm going to come right here and try to be smarter than my equipment.
There you go.
And I'm going to share it right here. So
take this
yeah,
time to
take this
share.
time. I'm sharing now. All right, good. All right. So this video has been shared on my timeline. All right, here we go. Vasectomy. First of all, birth control and modernity, or modern times. I'm all about innovation. I'm all about medicine. People say you should just let things run the natural course. If you're going to climax and you have live sperm and you're going to climax and she's got live eggs, then if God wants you to be pregnant, be pregnant. I don't believe that. I don't believe that you have to leave it to that type of chance. So we don't have to leave it to chance because the body will tell you when it's working and all that stuff. You got the rhythm method and all that other kind of stuff. Listen, as a pastor, we have seen too many people get surprised. They had it all down to science and stuff just didn't happen. When the body and the temperature and the ovulating thing said it was supposed to happen, it didn't happen. And when the body and the temperature and everything said this should not happen, it did happen. I've known people that have had tubes tied and vasectomy and still ended up pregnant. So I say make use of everything. They got Viagra now. They got hormones for women where you can get adjusted as you go through menopause and so on. And we believe in all of that. We don't believe that we should trust in medicine or trust in natural things, but there's nothing wrong with that. We talked about sex toys not too long ago, and if there's massage lotion, great. If there's an edible lubricant or whatever, if there's a scented candle, or if there's silk pajamas, or if there's something that goes buzz, it's like, people cuss me out and say you shouldn't be doing that in the marriage bed. You shouldn't bring technology while they're heating up microwave popcorn, chewing me out, because you're using technology, and then we'll have the same people that talk about this, you shouldn't be doing it, are getting a scope to see what the gender of their baby is. So you're condemning me for bringing technology into the marriage bed, and then you're like, oh my gosh, we found out we had a boy, 7 months before, or whatever. So just stop. Okay, so the woman taking the lead we've talked about, the lengthy discussion we've talked about. We've gone through all the what ifs. So now I want to get to how we got to the point of vasectomy. Here we go. Do a lot of research. Be informed. Maybe this video can be part of your research. Nothing is 100%. Stuff can grow back. They cut the tubes. Sometimes they cut and tie the tubes. Sometimes they cut and cauterize the tubes. And in both cases, in like 1 out of 1,000, they grow back. So don't just say, well, I'm going to get this medical procedure and that'll be that. Do that and pray. And research and know the possibility. There are potential side effects. You can end up with kind of knots from where the incision was. You can end up sometimes in very painful knots that happen. They sometimes
say sperm leaks sometimes after it's cut.
Yeah, so the sperm builds up afterwards because your body is still producing. Apparently, and this is not medical advice at all, but from what I gathered, stuff is in transit. So even when you cut it, it's not like, well, I cut it and there will be no sperm. You still have live cultures. You know, it's like yogurt. You still have live active cultures there, and it takes a while for them to get out of your system. And so even though they cut it, sometimes they tie it, sometimes they burn it, cauterize it or whatever, which I think you said during the procedure, you could see them burning it.
Yeah,
smoke, you know. Like that one guy said, do you smoke after sex? And the guy said, well, I never looked. So it was the first time you see smoke coming up from your crotch. Is not really an exciting thing there. So, but even after that, a guy told me sometimes they split the vas deferens, they split it and tie it, but sometimes the tear goes below the tie, so little sperm guys leak out and are still able to make it out when you ejaculate, and people can, get pregnant again. Sometimes they grow back together, they refuse. That's the thing, like a bone, you press a bone together, it'll reach. So I guess it's like one end reaches to the other, and they somehow reform. Form of pregnant, surprise. So those things happen. So do your research. One of the things that I looked at, and this was kind of part of the thing, was there have been studies linking vasectomy to prostate cancer, increased likelihood of prostate cancer. There have been studies that said it was, and then a study said that's way too small, there's no chance, and then a study that says, yeah, it kind of might be a thing. The most recent studies say there's absolutely no linkage at all, that yes, these people did have vasectomies, and yes, X percentage of them end up with prostate cancer, but it's really no different than the general population. Someone say, why would you bring that? Because we do nothing as faith people just trusting the natural. Take an aspirin, pray over it, pray over your food. Even if you've got a great diet regimen, a great health regimen, the number of people that were perfectly clean bill of health, ate vegan, ate natural, exercise, 0% body fat, healthy blood sugar, blah, 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 that I know that have fallen just dead in the floor. You cannot put all of your comfort and confidence in the natural. So you say, well, my gosh, I'm not going to do it if there's a chance I get cancer. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying there's a chance you can get cancer. I'm just saying go into it with eyes wide open. Thank God for the internet. Thank God for things like this. I had friends, even spiritual sons, that reached out to me and said, hey, Dad, this is what's going to happen. Here's how it's going to be. And I thought, why am I 42 years old or 43 years old and I don't know this information? No man has ever taught me, here's what happens, here's how it goes. So that's why we're doing this podcast.
And I think there's even women, because I've talked to women that say nobody shares, and maybe this is something we have to do, about pregnancy and different things that happen to your body when you're pregnant. But I thought about it when you posted that you were going to get a vasectomy, or that we were talking about it, and people wrote you. It dawned on me, people don't talk about this.
Yeah, guys don't talk about it. People, especially men. I think maybe depending on how people are brought up, I don't know. I know in some households sex and things like that are talked about. In some households it's not. Some households, I know you talked about, and I can share this. See, I even get nervous sharing this, but then nervousness to share it reinforces the shame that we're trying to remove. You told me that you had used pads, and then you were on a field trip or whatever, and your friends were telling you through the door how to put a tampon in or whatever. Yeah. It's just like, you're on your own, figure it out. And I realized that at 43, I was on my own. If I don't find it on the internet, nobody sits me down. Why does anybody sit anybody down and go, hey, just so you know, as you get older, and if you're sure you're done having kids, you can do this, you can do that. Why does that information not get put out? And so this is it. So know the risks, do the research. And here's the thing I'm going to talk about all this. Do it as a partnership and as a team. Do it together. Connie and I would research. I would tell her she found a doctor. Some of you have heard the story. You called up the doctor and you couldn't remember the word vasectomy. And you're like, yeah, I'm calling to get an appointment for my husband or whatever. But she's on the phone and she's like, yeah, I need to get an appointment for my husband. She's like, for what? And she says he wants to get and she's doing the scissor things like the lady can see her through the phone. The thing snipped, wants to get snipped, and the lady goes, "You mean circumcised?" She goes, "Yeah." No, not that, not that. Not on the end, at the roots, not on the leaves, at the roots. And so she called. We researched. We did reviews. Blah blah blah. We did it as a team. So research, find out the complications, find out the risk, and pray. We always do before we go into a surgery. Pray for wisdom on the doctors. Pray for wisdom on the nurses. Everybody involved. Supernatural recovery. Blah blah blah. Because yes, we go in the natural. We live in the natural, but we ultimately place our trust in God. Okay. So here we go. So what happened? We found a doctor. We settled on it. I went for a consult. I didn't know what to expect. They asked me point blank. As a matter of fact, it was a referral from my original doctor.
Yeah, your primary.
My primary. And I was like, hey, what do you think about vasectomy? We're thinking about doing it. And she says, how you're 43 and, you know, where you're at in life and children. She says, you know, it's something to do. I asked her about freezing sperm. She said, well, something you can do. There's some places you can do it. You know, sometimes it's cost prohibitive. Sometimes it's not. She says it could be very inexpensive. She says much cheaper to do that than to freeze eggs. It may be something we want to consider. So you get an honest thing. She says, I know a person that I can refer you to. So she referred, we talked, we got reviews. We felt pretty good about it. I went in for the initial consult. You know, and it was a urologist. I went in, they said, you got to pee in a thing, and I peed in a thing, and then they did the bladder to make sure there was no pee they did the ultrasound to make sure there was no pee in my bladder, and then it was take down your pants to make sure they could access the tubes, the vas deferens, where the sperm goes through. So what happens is you will still ejaculate because the ejaculate, the fluid, the main fluid comes out of the prostate. It's sourced from the prostate, but the sperm comes out of the testes. So what they do is, when you climax, you'll still, you know, the white stuff will still come out, the sticky stuff will still come out, the watery stuff will still come out. All that will still happen, which maybe we need to talk at some point on prostate surgery as well. But this is just on that. But there's no live ammunition in it because they cut the path that the testes generate the sperm. This is not scientific, but basically the testes generate the sperm, send it up through the tubes, and the tubes join with the ejaculate, and as the ejaculate comes out, it comes out with it, which is why you've heard the pre-cum or pre-ejaculate, the clear fluid, as arousal happens, it comes out of the head of the penis, lubricates the head of the penis, can also assist in penetration. You know, it's kind of a clear, sticky, sweet kind of a, it's not like... it's not ejaculate, you know, it's clear. Technically, there should be no sperm in that because there is, that's coming out of this, a function of the prostate, because the sperm comes out of the testes. Now, one of the things that happens where people get, you know, surprised is they are having intercourse with that clear ejaculate and they end up pregnant. And there's a huge scientific debate on, look, you can't get pregnant from, and forgive the terms of just from pre-cum, you can't get pregnant from it. And then 20 people say, I got pregnant from it. Well, that's scientifically, they say it's not possible, and some people say it is possible, some people say it happened to me, some people say it didn't happen to you. But I tell you what, if you have ejaculated in the previous 24 hours or even sometimes longer, there can be sperm living if you've not urinated, etc. You can have sperm that even if you've ejaculated and ejaculate, as you know, it dries, you know, like glue, sometimes clear, sometimes a little crunchy or whatever. You can ejaculate, have sex, and it can be the hard, crusty coating can be over live sperm. Some people say it can't live more than 24 hours out of the body. Sometimes it gets in the folds of the vagina. I've heard things, as a matter of fact, there was a big case where a woman had twins by two different fathers.
I did hear that.
Because somebody had ejaculated, and they two different sperms fertilized the two eggs that were inside her. So that type of thing is possible. So even though the clear stuff does not have, is not supposed to have sperm in it, there could be sperm left in there from a previous ejaculation. That's why peeing after sex is important. And also, you know, for other reasons, you got to think through, you know, re-penetration. But what Connie and I would talk about is, while we were using condoms, which is our primary source of birth control, because we only had a few months where we didn't use condoms right at the beginning because she did the shot, and we talked about this in the first video, it kind of messed with her. And I don't like to introduce chemicals into her body that cause all sorts of weird stuff. And some people have no issues with it at all. But we use condoms, and we would have sex, I would ejaculate in the condom, pull the condom off, and then the next morning want to fool around, but we didn't trust that there might be just some little spermy guy hanging out under the bridge, you know, some little homeless guy that was like, I'm just waiting here, and my penis goes back in uncovered because we're just playing around and not know that, you know, and that's really not the one you want to conceive, the one that just hung out under the bridge, you know, that's not who you want, you know, to bring conception. Where'd you come from, you know? So we were always very careful about that. And Connie is very disciplined, she does not play around with that. I think maybe one time in our whole marriage there was an accidental, I ejaculated and that was not cool, and you know, it's like, we'll just go for it. But yeah, I mean, but you're talking about one out of thousands of times. We do not play. And I really realized, maybe we'll get to this at the end of the thing tonight, a lot of it was rooted in, she does not relax. She's not going to have a good time if she's worried about me spilling the beans. You know, she's not going to climax you, because while we're going, she's like, are you okay? Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. And you know, there were times we didn't always play. with condoms. We would play around a little bit and then kind of withdraw. And I remember being the stress, and we'll talk about the liberty, but the stress of I want to go enough to have pleasure, but not enough that it catches me off guard. And so.
And I think the grace started to run out because it seemed like as we
Yeah.
got closer, it was probably about maybe 2 years. I know a couple of years ago I went and saw my gynecologist and was talking about different options for me even at that point. But we started really talking about probably a year prior to you having the vasectomy. And I think the grace was starting to run out because I think we started to play a little more and a little more and a little more.
We played too much. And then one of the things that happened, he says, sperm dies after being exposed for a period, i.e. in the condom, undecided and have sex hours later. Yeah, well, again, that's what they say, but I've also heard, again, of 24 hours later. Mm-hmm. And Connie I want to go back to that thing about, but we didn't play around with stuff on your stomach. We didn't play around with stuff that may even get close and kind of leak down in between the thigh, that we all freaked out about that, and the acrobatics we would go through to try to jump out of the way. And I remember I used to get frustrated because we would be having sex without a condom, and it would be like, if I was close, when I would pull out, you would jump, and I'm like, do not jump. You might jump right where I'm aiming, so whatever. So that created a lot of stress in our life. It was
time to have.
Yeah, it was time. So we just knew that the kid door had closed, and this is what we did. So, okay, so moving on. So I went in, and then they check for guys that are wondering what happens. They checked to see if he could access the tube, the vas that he was going to have to cut, and just to feel, can he access it. I'm not sure what the doctor was or wasn't looking for there. But just and he felt, he said, okay, I can get to it. I don't know if that means cut. I have no idea, but I was not expecting to drop my pants that day, but I did. And also he said, and take this stuff home and think about it. Read this stuff and find out. I think they don't want you to make an impulse buy because you're making a permanent decision. Although in some cases it can be reversed, but it can be pretty complicated.
Yeah, I've heard that
it's a lot more involved to get it
reversed.
Reversed. So, and I did not do the clip thing, the pinch in the hose. I did the cut a section out of the hose and then tie off both sections so that they never are supposed to never grow back again. So that was the consult. And then we just got on the schedule. It was like, have you read the thing? Yeah. And then when I came back, we got on the schedule and I had to check off. Oh, when he did the consult with me, he had a list of like 8 things. You need to know this. You need to know in 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 3,000, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember how many, 20,000 of whatever these things he's done. He said, I've never had a thing. He said, there are 2 choices. You can do it this way or that way. The reason I do it this way, I had a patient that asked me to do this, and he had issues, blah, 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 blah. So that was, I was really grateful that he explained it to me, but I didn't catch while he was talking to him. I thought he was reading off notes. He was checking boxes with his initials and then asking me to sign that he had gone over it with me. So that's important. Cool. Another thing, which this is a big deal, is they talked about painkillers. And I just put this out. It was like, do not take any aspirin or blood thinning, any NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, up to, I think it was 2 weeks. He says 10 days. He said, because, part of the complication is if it bleeds too much. And so I was really nervous because we had done something and I took something and it was like 10 days out, or I don't remember what it was.
I think exactly 10 days.
Yeah, exactly 10 days out. And I had taken a leave or something like that. And I was like, I just wanted to know. He said, look, I've worked through where people had done it before. He said, but a lot of people use that stuff as a blood thinning measure. And he says that you really have to watch out for, so you'll be fine. So it was information to me. I'm passing it on to you. So I go into the procedure. I went to urinate again. I came in. They had an assistant clean me, which was iodine or whatever, just wash.
Like that, yeah.
It's you're just there. It's just lay back and you're there. And then the doc came in. We went to another room, and then we got to it. It's really weird. We discussed football the entire time. It was about a 20-something minute, and Jacksonville and Auburn and Alabama and the Patriots and the Falcons.
I think it was right after the
Super Bowl. We discussed football the entire time, and it's really strange, again, to have 2 men standing over you while you're in a gown, while they're both, working on your testicles. And I don't even know what the other guy was doing. I guess assisting or whatever. If he's assisting. What was wild was they told Connie she could come in the room. And so Connie was in the room. I couldn't see her. She was down at the other end. But they did this thing, and I didn't realize this, and just be prepared for it. The VAS, the nerve center, like when you get kicked in the testicles, when you touch that VAS, it is that same nerve center, and that was something that was enlightening to me, to say the least. When they put the needle in to do anesthesia, it felt like I was being kicked in the nuts. Make your voice. What did the little boys say in your neighborhood growing up? How do they do it when they fall off their bike? Come on, what do they say?
Oh, my nuts.
Oh, my nuts. She's always like, I know you boys are like, oh, my nuts. So anyway, I was like, did somebody just kick me? And he said, no. He said the nerve center on the testicles is in that part of the testicles. And literally, he was digging that needle in, and it felt like
it was just.
It felt like somebody was just pounding me, and I was like, whoa! I did not expect this. Well, once it's numb, it's numb. And so they did both sides, and then let that sit up for 15 or 20 minutes.
And I think even that you said you felt they were testing.
Yeah,
and
so
you're
then
like,
he was sticking a needle in. He said, do you feel something? I felt something. He said, all right, I'll give you a little bit more, which again resumed the being kicked in the nuts. Well, once all the pain, the anesthetic or whatever set in, we were good to go. Now, I can't be for sure, but I had been told there was, and it's not an incision. The brochure didn't say we will make an incision in the testicle. They call it no scalpel. They didn't make an incision. They made a puncture. It says we will make 2 punctures in the scrotum. Why anyone thinks it's a good idea to make a puncture in the scrotum? So just think of
they say no scalpel.
No scalpel. Yeah. It's no scalpel, but it's a puncture.
They're getting in there.
Yeah. So so they just like So I don't even know what. It's like jabbing a Capri Sun or whatever it is. I don't know what he was doing, but it's a puncture that takes place. And it was in the center. So I thought, because I can't feel anything, and I know they're down there for a while, and I know I can feel on my left side and my right side movement, but no pain, I thought they had made a hole on the left side and a hole on the right side. And Connie says, no, they were in the center. And somehow he was in the center and was able to work over and pull out, cut, put back together, move over, and pull out. So he pulled the spaghetti tubes out from the center. And I think you were trying to take a picture or whatever, but it's you did get a picture at the end of the actual sections they cut out. Yeah, the little sections to see, and it's just like spaghetti. It's just like little pieces of spaghetti, and they clip it out and put it together. So he took a while. I've heard guys tell me it's been done in 15 minutes. Other people told me it was, done in 20 minutes. What were we in there, 25 minutes or something like that?
And I remember thinking, because I thought it was going to be one side and the other, and I saw the puncture, I thought that it had taken all that time, basically, to do just the one side. I was like, man, they've got to go through this whole lot. But I realized when he was cauterizing the second side that he had done both, and so I felt better about that for you.
Yeah, so so did I, because I thought, man, if that's only one side and it's been 25 minutes. So the procedure ends, very polite. They're all matter of fact about it, and they say, they try to wipe you up and you clean up, but that iodine stains everything, So I had on sweats. I had on drawers that would underwear, I guess, that would support.
They tell you to wear support.
Yeah,
no boxers.
Yeah, no boxers, nothing like that. So they were like, well, you can go clean up in the bathroom, and you really, it's kind of nerve wracking. It's kind of like, what's going on here? You have been punctured, I was going to say slightly been punctured, but I remember I couldn't clean and put any pressure. I'm still under the anesthetic. It's local. They said you should probably have somebody drive you home, and we did. But I remember I couldn't to scrub this stuff off. It would take too much pressure. So they give you some instructions on what to do, and they send you home. And they gave me pain meds.
Even coming from the doctor's office to the car, you were walking.
Yeah, you're walking gingerly, and I'm not sure.
I was like, okay. After I realized that you're walking, so I'm like, let me go get the car for you.
Yeah, because
because I didn't realize it.
Were the kids there?
No, it's just us.
Okay. Mikey was there for the first one.
No. He came for
a different appointment. Okay.
Yeah.
Was a follow-up appointment? That was at that place. They were saying how well behaved he was.
No, I thought that was at the thing.
No. Okay, it could be. One of these things. My children was there. Anyway, I don't know what it was.
Maybe the follow-up.
But we walked out, and she was like, "I'll go get the car," and I'm like, "No, I'll walk with you." And I don't know if it's a good idea because I felt hero-y, but then I also felt, let me get out of this place, So I was walking gingerly, and I'm not sure how much of it was pain, but just awareness of. Don't bounce, don't. And I remember thinking, and a friend of mine sent me this thing about somebody carrying 2 bags of groceries that were too heavy and busting out the bottom. I feel like I didn't want my guys just to bust out of the bottom of the bag. I had no idea what was going on. So they gave pain meds. And this is a big thing. They will give you mild narcotics after this. And guys, you take these things if you want to. I'm not a real big fan of drugs. Take these things if you want to, but they keep accountable with your wife. I would tell Connie, I took a pill. And at first it was like, I'm not going to take any pills. I'm not going to take any pills.
But I even did some research and looked up, and they were saying you'll want to take some even a little bit.
Stay ahead of the pain, yeah.
Stay ahead, because if you wait until you feel the pain, then, But again, you've got to be real mindful, and you'll know how your body is and everything. If you've had wisdom teeth surgery or whatever, you know how your body reacts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I've had sinus surgery or whatever. Yeah. Listen to me. Don't fool with drugs. Tell your spouse, I took one. Don't take 5 in a day and nobody knows. Don't do that, because you're going for something simple and it creates something complicated. You can end up dealing with it with a decade. It's just not necessary. Accountability. And your spouse can be the eyes of God. I didn't want to take them. She's like, you need to stay ahead of it. I was like, no, I'm fine. And then about 4 or 5 hours after the surgery, that feeling, and it felt like I was being kicked over and over. Like, if you've ever been hit in the testicles before, and I don't know if women understand this, and I know women have their own sensitivities, it doesn't hurt in the testicles. It hurts up in your abdomen. And what usually happens, you see somebody on a field, a soccer field, football field, they get hit, they just, they blow up in a knot. I'll be okay, and just breathe. And guys know, and everything falls back into place, and everybody's okay. The problem is, it was kicked, and everything hit in my abdomen, but it never came down. Not that my testicles didn't come down, but the pain, it was like behind the wall of my navel, a little below my navel, constantly for like a day or two. And I was shocked and one of my sons had said, yeah, it feels like you got hit in the nuts. And it does, but not like, boom, you got hit in the nuts and 3 minutes later you're fine. It's like just boom, and it never, it just didn't subside. And I was shocked as to how gingerly and, laying down in the bed, and I'm not going to apologize. Your testicles, they kind of, there's movement. They're like a lava lamp. They're always moving and they're alive. And laying down on your back and turning, everybody rolls over to the side, and that rolling over would cause pain. And then I'd try to lay back on my back, and everything would roll over again. And so this is kind of like the initial thing. And I didn't think I'd want to take drugs, but when I would take them, I don't know how many of those I actually took.
Not much. I know like the first day, and I don't know if it was like an every 4 or 6 hour thing. It seems in my mind, because I know I was writing things down, it seemed like you took 2, maybe 3.
In the first 24 hours or whatever?
Yeah, maybe like when you got home you took one, then in the evening, and maybe before bed or whatever, or maybe we stretched it out so you could go to sleep. And then it seems like the next day maybe 2. I would say 3 to 4 max. Okay,
it's just something I didn't want to get into. Yeah. They also gave me an antibiotic, I think.
Yeah, because didn't you have to?
Oh, I had to take an antibiotic before. Was it the day before I had to start taking it or something?
A day
like that?
or 2 or something.
So that it would prevent infection. So I forgot about that other drug, which you have, however they tell you to take those. So that was the procedure, and that was the day after.
And the key of all of this.
Oh yeah.
Medicine or whatever. Ice.
Ice, yeah, ice. You want to ice your boys.
And they say, and I read this, and I think this worked out best, you'd have to tell me, peas, frozen peas.
Or frozen vegetables,
or frozen,
yeah.
Because they're movable, versus just a hard ice pack.
I can tell you right now, sitting here at 10 o'clock at night or whatever, the last thing I want in the world is ice on my testicles. When she was like, honey, let me give ice, they say to have ice, I was like, I don't want that at all. It just froze me out. From basically under my navel all the way down, it was just frozen. And I would do 20 or 30 minutes, flip sides, 20 or 30 minutes. I would go to bed. You could tuck it in your underwear, just anything. And I remember, you'd hear me roll over in the middle of the night, and you'd hear all the peas go, because that was so funny.
Well, 2 things. One is you did not want to do the ice, and I realized I would just go bring the ice to him, because you would say, no, I don't need it, but you would be so grateful when I brought it, And then the other thing is, I think we had 2 or 3 bags, and she wrote Mike's peas on, in a Sharpie marker.
Do not use.
Because I had to put them back in. We just reused them over the couple of days or whatever. And so if one got, thawed out, I'd have the other one for him. But you want to write on that, because you don't want to mix up any peas and end up eating those for dinner.
Which is a big deal for her, because the idea that she wasted food is like, I'm going to throw them away. These will be just fine. No, they will not be just fine. I just these were the ones that kept you.
I was able to put them back in and know which ones I was pulling out.
Eat up, everyone. These are the ones that kept your dad out of pain. They're blessed peas. No, they're not. Okay, so that's how it starts. And then about the third day, 2.5, 3 days in, the being hit in the nuts thing goes away, and now you roll to a different type of pain, which is sensitivity. Sensitivity to, like, if you move too much, or if you if there's a tap, or even again movement during sleep. And what happens is that the actual incision points, which is inside the scrotum, where the tubes were cut, they're very sensitive, and not everybody's the same. They can be very sensitive for a while. And this now led us into the question that people have: when can you start having sex again?
But I was going to say, before you get into that, is they say take it easy for those couple of days.
That's another huge thing.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to say that? Or
I was just going to say, they say take it easy, and people that were talking to you beforehand would say, trust me, you want to take it easy. You may feel better, and you don't want to get going too quickly. You want to just
by the end of day 2, I thought, I'm back. And one of my spiritual sons had said, look, I felt like after day 2 I was ready to go, and I went back to normal. Worst mistake of my life, because I overdid it, and it set me back. So we decided ahead of time. They say take 5 days. We took 5 days.
And we did it on a Thursday.
Mm-hmm. And you went to church without me that Sunday. I thought, I'm going to go to church with you. And
there was a couple. Go on.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Because A, he wanted to be in something comfortable, like sweats.
And I didn't want to go to the church in sweats, yep.
And 2, he was still walking gingerly, and he was like, I do not want to walk around and everybody ask me what is going on.
Yeah, if I thought I walked from the parking lot to the dome, it's like, dude, you all right? I don't want to answer 100 questions. Yeah, here's what happened. So you went to church. I think I watched it online and came home. And I have no shame in that. I took the 5 days. My spiritual son told me, man, I was climbing steps. It was no big deal. And then I paid for it. Yeah, the other thing is bruising didn't show up.
No, they say
for days later. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, she would look and, kind of see where the incision was, and kind of, look, and you could see the bruising. I mean, it was just, I was shocked, because I was like, I remember she was showing me in a mirror. I was like, well, that's not bad. And then it was like these deep purple bruises. Mm-hmm. So your body has had trauma, and I encourage you to take the time to recover from that trauma. So now we get to the part, because I've got all these questions here, sex. Mm-hmm. People want to know how, what, when. So they told me, and I've heard different things, 25 ejaculations or 6 weeks, whichever takes longer. Mm-hmm. 25 ejaculations or 6 weeks, whichever takes longer. 6 weeks definitely takes longer. But so Connie was so sweet, she made me a calendar. Not a calendar, but you had
little emojis.
Little
the little squirting water emoji.
She had 25 little squirting water emojis on a sheet, and she said just check them off every time we have sex or do something. So that's what started. It was probably.
But I was so bummed, because I'm like, I want you to go to the doctor because we're done, but.
You have to wait for 6 weeks. And they're like, my doctor's like, I'm not even going to see you until after 6 weeks. So
that day.
Yeah, it was that day. So we started having sex, I think the 4th or 5th.
So it was Thursday. Uh-huh. So there's
I think it was Sunday night.
Friday night, Saturday night. That's what I was going to say.
So Sunday night. So the 4th night, it was, I think we had gone to sleep, but it was one of those wake up and it's like, we've been missing each other. So you have to be careful because of position, and there's just certain positions you can't do her on top. Mm-hmm. I don't even think, because of the way your testicles hang, and I know as you get aroused they kind of draw in, I don't even know if missionary would necessarily work. I think we ended up doing kind of partial from behind, because I didn't need to slam into anything.
Mm-hmm. It was real gentle.
It was real gentle, but it had been 4 days, so it didn't require a lot. But you're really, because it's around the testicles that the pain is. There was not abdomen pain anymore. It was only if they got bumped or moved, and you hit me one time. Actually, it wasn't even sex. You were doing something like, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to do that. So it's sensitive in that aspect. And you're really only dealing with the top maybe 2/3 of the penis, because you can't really go all the way. You don't want to on that 4th or 5th day all the way in. Or all the way down, so the top 2/3, maybe the top 6 or 8 inches only you're dealing with. I guess it's different for different people. We'd be top 6 or 8 inches, so not the full thing, just so. I digest. So anyway, that is how we started. One of the things that we were trying to figure out is how to hasten the ejaculations, how to have them quickly. And we were coming up with ways we would have intercourse, but I knew I couldn't thrust enough to necessarily finish because, again, the movement. And so we would kind of make sure she was okay and then finish by hand. But you can't even finish by hand necessarily because if you go all the way to the base.
Hitting the base.
Yeah, hitting the base of that. So it was, and somebody say, this is really graphic. These are the questions people want to know. They write us and say, so that's one thing to watch out for. So pain medication was gone at that point. Now it's just a matter of getting to the 25. We did it, and then, I think you had your cycle come in between there, so that kind of delayed us a little bit. But we're trying to get finished, and we're on this partnership thing. So began slowly, focused on her pleasure, and then allow me to finish as we were able to. So we get through the 25. It's game on. The pain, it's only in the minorest. Yeah, exactly. Ask me how we know. So it was actually you. Well, since you went public, he said, my son there said, make sure you do the time they're telling you to do it and go back and get the checkup, because it's like we just decided we'd get through it, we're not going back, and then had a major scare, like, we should have listened. So based on his advice, I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to listen to the doctor. So I believe we had sex after that with a condom. I believe we used condoms between the because we weren't going to have.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
You're not saying after the 25, after you had the vasectomy.
After we had the vasectomy, because we were not going to chance it. But I'm saying even when we got to the 25, we weren't like, yeah, go ahead. And one night we were
so close, but we were only a couple of days.
Yeah, we were like a couple of days, and we were like, we got to be there. And it was like, let's just go for it. And she was like, go for it. And I was like, yeah, I'm just kidding. I was like, nope, not doing it, because she said, we're not
going to be this close to have to have the surgery and be that close. And
she said, we're not going to be the idiots that get one day before the checkup and end up getting pregnant. So we, by God's grace, did not do it. So we got the follow-up scheduled. We were back on game day, game on. I was able to check all my 25 off. We waited for the 6 weeks. This was interesting for me because I didn't know how you did it. I thought, well, do they put you in a room and just say, yes, go give us a specimen in the room over here? And I thought, Connie, you're going to have to make me a video or whatever on my phone before I go. And they're like, would you like a magazine, sir? No, I've got something right here. Unless you have Slovenian supermodels from Ohio, you're not going to really arouse me. So, but it didn't happen. They said we could do it at home if we got it there within an hour or whatever. Yeah. So they sent me 2 little things, and it was a group effort. She was participating, and but was so great, she decorated my cup. She put all these, yay, I'm so happy, this is the day, all these flowers and smiley face all over it. And I remember when first of all, you're carrying around a cup of...
we put in a little sandwich,
lunch bag. Yeah. And it's like I'm carrying my own ejaculate around, and she decorated the cup before it had the specimen in it. And I was thinking of all sorts of cruel jokes that I could do and filling it up with stuff overflowing and handing it to them. But, you're going to the urologist with a brown paper bag in your hand, walking through the lobby and everything. Everybody knows what you're carrying. I mean, they know what's going on. I don't know why that made me feel self-conscious, but it's like, honey, go. But I put them in the seatbelt. I put the brown paper bag, I put my dudes in there, because I don't know if there's still guys in there. This is award-winning, prize-winning, stuff. And we were talking to Olivia about her 13th birthday party today, and she's like, well, I like to do this, and I like to do this. And I said, she's like, but I don't want to cost you money because I don't want to take all you guys' money. I said, we will be fine. And I was getting ready to whisper in Connie's ear. I was going to say, I could just go make a donation. She said, you can't even make a sperm donation. All I got left is blood and platelets. It's the only way I can earn money now. So no more sperm. So we went. I wait. They asked me the questions. The doctor comes out. We had to make sure we knew when the doctor was going to be there. And the doctor came in. He disappeared into the back room. I have no idea what he did. I'm hoping he looked under the microscope versus going, yeah, I think you're good. I have no idea what he came out. He came out and said, gave me the all clear, and this was a big deal because it had been 15 years of marriage, family planning, etc., and now we were definitely in a new season. And this really, as dynamic as a sex life that we had, really opened up some things to us. So I still had the knots. We're going to wrap up here in just about 10 minutes. I still had the knots. And if you have questions, now would be the time to put them or inbox them to Connie if you want to real quick. So while we're on the broadcast. I had these knots, and every now and then, when I'd be washing or something like that, or maybe you and I'd be playing around, I could feel, especially on the left side, there was that one little kind of, and I thought, and what you can do is you can develop this, miss you too, brother, thank God for you. You can build up these little crystallized, I guess what I would call sperm, and they can become very painful. They work themselves out over time, but sometimes they don't, and they have to be removed. And so I was like, okay, Lord, I declare in the name of Jesus today. So I think now, I don't think I felt anything for a while, but I think if I were to feel in my scrotum, I could probably feel where
But
it
I don't
was.
think there's pain
But it's
or
not the pain. It's not the pain. But even over time, I mean, I think if we did this in February, be middle of March, middle of April, now we're middle of May, I think even in April, there were times when if you would hit or whatever, go, just watch that one side, so there, and that's okay. Well, somebody say, why are you saying this? Just so you don't get freaked out, that it's part of the thing, because I think sometimes guys, we don't know. We just go through it and then we figure it out, and we go through it for ourselves and we kind of pray it through and figure it out, but we never pass on the information. So that's what we're doing. Okay. So this is where we want to get, and we'll end up here. I'll make sure I got all the questions that, because I've had people, where's this person here? Okay, got it here. We ended up at a place of liberty, and okay, so is making love painful or difficult? No. Is any part of the growing hurt after? Yes, we talked about that. How many weeks or months? We've talked about that. Any negative side effects? No. What can I expect to have surgery? How long to wait to have sex regularly again? Okay, so I think we've answered a lot of those. Okay, so let's go ahead.
Can I add this in, unless you're going to
go for it? Yeah.
About where you're at, what season of life.
It's good.
Because sometimes people, depending on if they started having kids real young, and they say, we had kids through our 20s and now we're into our early 30s, we're going to do this. You'll know, you may say, we have 3 kids and that's all we want or whatnot. But then we were 43 and we had several years where we knew we're not planning on having any more kids. And it's just something to be prayerful about and discuss and communicate. And I think we may have hit some of this even in the last discussion. But just something to be mindful about. If you say, yeah, we had our 3 kids and we're done, it can be reversed, but it may be something
they
you
say
really
it's a
want
little more complicated to reverse it. It can be done, but it's a little more complicated.
So.
But seasons of life, I don't know, even if we had, let's say we had 3 kids and we were done, if we were in our 20s, I don't think we would have done it.
Yeah.
If we were in our 30s, I don't think we would have done it. I know people that got a vasectomy in their 20s and had tubes tied in the 20s, and 5 years later, they weren't even married to each other. They were married to somebody else. 20s is we made the decision in our 40s based on, we made our decision in our 40s based on if something were to happen to Connie, God forbid, if something were to happen to the kids, God forbid, if we ended up divorced, whatever.
Yeah, we talked about this in our last.
Would I really marry somebody in would I if something happened to Connie and I was 44 or 42 or whatever, if I married somebody, am I going to marry somebody in their 20s that wants a child? Already having 2 children, and it didn't really fit with us. But other people, you may say, I'm 24, and we had a kid at 17, we had a kid at 19, we had a kid at 22, and we had a kid at 23, and we're done. Fine. But life in that period, 24 to 35, 40, is a long time. Now, if you're married to someone who is older, because we know some people in their late 20s married to somebody in their late 30s, 10 years older, you may be making a decision saying, you know what, here's where we are, and God's got to be bigger than that decision. If the most unlikely thing happens and you've already had a vasectomy, you won't be punished, you won't miss out, God's still good, and you may adopt, or you may do this, or you may do that. I mean, there's a thousand other options, but saying, well, if in one weird case where somebody gets raptured and somebody else does this, and what about this, and somebody's going to offer me $1 million to give them a child, then I'll be so sad. Well, yeah, if all that happens, just pray and God will give you the answer. All right. Okay, here we go. So here's the thing I want to get to is liberty. Connie and I enjoy liberty now. There's a spontaneity to our sex that condoms did not provide. There's also great things that we do now, whereas, and this is just where it's going to be raw and honest. We had the pill early in our marriage. But the shot, you had the shot, sorry, early in our marriage. But Connie was not, and you've heard our other teachings, uncovered enough to even, I think you enjoyed sex.
Yeah.
But really didn't catch, she didn't really catch what was going on. And for the first several months, I guess it was only 3 months of our marriage where we were having sex without condoms. I kept wondering where you were. Like, what's going on? Why isn't she? So we had sex. I climaxed. It was inside her. And that was it. She didn't really know. Then it was to get pregnant with Olivia. and while you were pregnant with Olivia, but again, I don't think you were uncovered. And then with Mikey, but then we realized, well, we were only married like 5 years at that point, and now we've been married, it's been a decade since then. You're a totally different woman than you were before. Yes. And so now, the liberty and the freedom, you wouldn't think semen, and I guess not semen, but ejaculate and cum, forgive me, would be that much fun. It's really to be able to do that inside and to not worry about it, to not have you hopped up on chemicals. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, and I don't know how else really to put it or whatever, but it allows us to, like you say, have a liberty to be more spontaneous, not have to be concerned, even just mentally.
Yeah.
I think it helps. But there's just things that I would have never have thought, and like you said, I never even connected this when we...
In the 3 other times we did it with Mikey, Olivia, and then in our first 2 months or whatever,
But not even realize just some of the sensations and things that
the texture,
now have.
The temperature, the moist,
Yeah. It's fun.
It is fun. Yeah. So I mean, we're it's kind of like slipping and sloshing in the mud and or in the goo and we'll have sex and we'll be laying there afterwards and just say, wow, I feel it on my leg, or I just felt, and it's like you would say, well, that's normal. We never had this. And even when we had sex without needing that protection, she was not present. I had never had sex before. Not that you weren't present, but you weren't uncovered. We've talked about it. Yeah. So we would do it, but we did not know. I didn't know because I'd never experienced it before. You didn't know because of with all the darkness and stuff you'd been through, what God had intended it to be like. Mm-hmm. This is what they say is wrong with porn. Porn is just visual, but real sex is sight, sense, smell, touch, taste, etc. There's all sorts of things going on, and we have found liberty. Mm-hmm. And whereas before, keep that ejaculate away from me. Don't get it near me. Don't lay there. Be careful that it doesn't fall in. And now it's like, man, where do you want to put it? Where do you want to, where do you want to,
And also intimacy.
Yes.
I think it's brought us closer, and the fact that we can be as intimate and as close during that thing and not have to say, okay, when you had a condom on, okay, take it out real quick or whatever, but just to enjoy the moment as well.
Well, yeah, because...
And to hold each other, and,
One of the things that we do, and this is just kind of how we do it, is because I only get one, I mean, there is multiple orgasms, but only one climax. There's a way to peak and build and do different control techniques so that you can have an orgasm without an ejaculation. But when I would ejaculate before, it was game over and not a lot of movement because you don't want to pull the condom off. You don't want to, that kind of thing, just playing around too much and oops.
Yeah.
But to be able to go now where I always try to make sure you have your orgasm or your 500 or whatever it is you're trying to do in that particular, before 2 o'clock. But now for you to say, for us to trade off and to climax and for you to stay in, for me to stay in, for you to be able to continue or to finish, because
even to move some more.
Yeah, to move some more. Because if you say, well, I'm going to have one more, when I climax, it's only a matter of time before. It's like one of those. It's like one of those bounce houses.
Yeah,
it's just a matter.
The air goes.
But that has added something to us, a liberty. I'm still erect. I've climaxed. We're intimate. And some people say, man, I can't be touched at all after I climax. We're developing a place of intimacy now where you're able in all that moisture, that temperature, that sensation. And this is what I'm saying. We finally feel like we're at the place where we're in full liberty. Mm-hmm. And it was my honor to your body, my honor to your reproductive process that held that last thing, because I didn't want you burdened, stressed, worried at all, because I knew if it's like, oh, you're pregnant, man, I feel so bad. I would feel bad. You would be dealing with stuff for a couple of years. 9 months of gestation plus the nursing. And plus, so we have arrived at a place doing it this way where we are at a new liberty to fully explore and share. And I say all that to say, semen and all that stuff is not gross. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. I don't like it on me. Why not? I don't like it when it's out. Why not? We feel like it's the greatest, thing in the world. And to lay there, she's laying in bed and we've had sex and I go open the drapes or do whatever, and we're sitting there still laying and cuddling or whatever, to jump back on you and not feel like I have to take a bath or whatever before I can touch you again, I feel like the bonding has gotten that much because you're not hyped up on chemicals. You don't have some plastic thing inside you. I don't have live active cultures that you're worrying about because you have a very fertile womb. I think both of our kids, you got a contact high because your body is just so fruitful. The liberty that we have just to fully bask in has been a blessing. And so anything else you want to say?
I'll wrap up with this. We've said a lot, we've shared a lot. Some people have said, we're interested. Can you share your experience? I would say in recap, you have to do what's best for you and your spouse. Mm-hmm. Communicate, talk, discuss it, be open. And number 2 or 3, wherever I'm on, it's not that bad. Yes, there's a couple days of discomfort and everything, but the I guess rewards of it and what you have for all the years going forward, I would say for us it was definitely worth it. It was definitely something that was a positive experience overall for us and something that we're grateful and glad we did.
Yeah, I think so. And we're enjoying our freedom. We're enjoying doing just new stuff that we've never been able to do. And there's things I wanted to do with you for years that out of honor we've not done. And hey, this would be fun and we could do this. And see the reproductive aspect of our sex life, that window is closed. But the pleasure aspect of it, the enjoyment part of it is still on. And to be in our 40s, and we're planning on going all the way till our 120s, is a gift from God. Marriage sex is a gift from God. Yes. So I know this is not really a hot topic. We talked on sex toys. We had 12,000 people. This is not that type of a thing. But people reached out and asked questions, and I thought, let's go ahead and say it. So that's our story. It may not be your story. If any of you are considering it, be led, be in agreement, by the Spirit, and do it. Again, as a man, I'm not going to ask Connie to carry an unnecessary burden in her body. I'm just not going to do that. And I know children aren't a burden. That's not. But the tension of, if this happens, what does it mean to her? I'm involved in a pregnancy. She's committed to it, and it has a totally different effect. So it's that honor for our wives. So
hopefully this helped you out.
Yeah, and be blessed. We love you all, and thanks for tuning in. It's an hour and 2 minutes, and I hope God. I know God will lead you and bring you peace, and enjoy. Keep having great sex.
Yeah.
It's a gift of God.
Sex.
Yeah, it's. I'm expressing Christ to her. She's expressing Christ to me, and God says, you know what? If you guys are going to model Christ to each other and do it the way I've told you, I'll give you a nice little bonus. And so it's good. God bless you all.
Good night.
Good night.